Well, while the show is back, it is at a new time slot, a new plot, and a new villain, which puts the show in a darker direction than ever before. Hey guys, it's time for the season premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 1, The Ghost, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode, mainly because I really didn't know what the season was going to be like. Of course, I know that the end of last season we ended in a time jump, but I didn't know this was going to be one of those things where we pick up after the time jump, or was it going to be one of those things where we have the time jump but we also see flashbacks. I really didn't know what was going to happen, and I was a little bit worried because of that, because a lot of times when a show does that, it just gets really confusing and convoluted. But I have to say that not only was the time jump the right decision, but this premiere I was very impressed with overall, because it very much seems like a revamped type show, and I really do think it's the right direction for the show to go in. It's a lot darker, and they really, I think, utilized being at a later time very well, because it's a lot more edgier of a show. Which, I get why they did that, because it gets people talking, with people knowing that it's on a later time, and people knowing that, you know, Ghost Rider's on the show, things like that. It gets people to talk, and it gets people to want to watch more of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because, let's face it, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably the least popular superhero show on TV right now, besides Gotham, of course, but let's just get into this premiere overall, because I really did love it. I really loved the way this started, and I thought this was just an incredible way to start off, but we start off with Daisy, or I guess Quake now is what we're calling her. She dresses for battle. She drops down on 4 heavily armed men in the pickup truck who are being pursued by Ghost Rider. And I love how right away we just get right into Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider Hell Charger appears and drives towards the truck. One of the men fires and rockets at it. Right away you can tell that it is definitely going to be a lot more violent. And I really appreciate them for going into it, because one of the problems Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. always had is that, oh, it's a family show. Oh, it's on at this time, so we can't get too dark. But now it's on 10 o'clock, I mean, they really have no rules. They can do whatever the hell they want, as long as it's obviously stuff they can show on broadcast television. But basically, one of the men fires a rocket at it, but the Hellcharger flips through the air, its wheels and engine lights on fire, and lands and rams the truck. Gas on the ground catches, and a ring of fire surrounds the area. Quake watches from outside the fire as Ghost Rider kills one of the men, shoves another in the trunk of the Hellcharger, and Ghost Rider drives off. Quake flees as the police arrives, and I think it was just a great way to start off. It really does show, like I said, that we're going this darker direction, and that things definitely are not as family-friendly as they were, and I really do appreciate that. And I really like the direction we're taking Daisy in, because Daisy is a lot less of just some hacker that's working for S.H.I.E.L.D., and is more of a vigilante, and I like the direction we're headed with her. I think it makes a lot more sense, especially with her character. Daisy's character has always tried to be, to find her purpose, and to really figure out where she fits, and we know that S.H.I.E.L.D., she just doesn't really fit there anymore, so it makes sense that she's gone off on her own, and I really liked what we saw there. But not only is Daisy somewhere else, we very quickly find out that Coulson and Mack are somewhere else as well, because as we know from the time jump, Coulson is no longer the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a very good twist. I like seeing Coulson in this direction, because was he a good director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Yes, but we kind of got the feeling that it wasn't going to last forever, and Coulson and Mack are enjoying a game of backgammon on the Zephyr 1, and it's not the Coinage, it's the Zephyr 1, and they're recounting their adventures over the past few days, which has spanned 3 continents, and another agent tells them that they're being called back to base for reasons that are classified. We don't know what that is, but we see that May is training a class of agents, and May is higher ranking than Coulson right now, which is interesting to see, because it's always been Coulson and May have been the team, but now it seems like it's more Coulson and Mack, and I think it's interesting to see that dynamic overall. I can't wait to see the way that goes throughout the show, because that's going to be interesting. But she's training a class of agents. When the Zephyr 1 touches down, she tells them about a particularly brutal crime she heard about, and that Quake may have been involved, and she wanted to tell him personally because the new director has forbidden them to chase after Quake, and this will allow them some time to act before the director knows about it. We kind of get the impression the director cares a lot less about the people that are involved and just kind of wants to get things done, and he's very much task-oriented, and he's a lot less like Coulson in the sense that he doesn't really care about who's involved. If someone gets hurt, they get hurt. He doesn't really care. So May warns them that the agents will have orders to kill if they find Quake and believe that she's responsible for the body. So you can tell that Quake obviously is involved in it. She's not obviously the sole focus, but they know that she's involved. And Quake finds one of the injured men from the incident in the street in the hospital. She questions him about a weapons deal she was tracking, about whatever it was that was chasing him. He says that the writer got him and that when the writer burns you, he burns your soul and your soul can never heal. And I thought they did a really good job in this episode of really justifying, you know, Ghost Rider or Robbie Reyes, whatever you want to call him. I thought they did a very good job of doing that, you know, showing why Robbie kills who he kills, showing why the Ghost Rider is who he is, and just showing the impact that he has on everyone. Just in this first episode, they did a very good job with that, and I really enjoyed that. But basically, he bleeds out, he falls to the floor, and again, very graphic stuff. I can't believe the show actually got that dark, but again, I really do applaud them for doing that. I'm not going to say that it wasn't a bad idea to do. I'm not going to say it was a bad decision, because it was a great decision, actually, in my opinion. I think it made the show that much better, and it made the show that much riskier, and if the show's going this much more risky direction, I think it's all the better for it, because it's what the show needs. It's where the show's going from here on out, and it's going to take some getting used to see it this dark, but definitely I think it's the right direction for the show to go, indefinitely. So we then get to see what's going on with Jemma and Fitz, because as we know from the season 3 finale, they have gone out on their own as well. And I like that everyone's split up. I like that the team is not really together right now, because it makes us want to see them together that much. You know, it kind of makes us get some used to. But the show is exploring new ground. I really do appreciate them for doing that. You know, Hydra's kind of done, so there's not really a reason for the team to be together. And especially after the tragedy that's kind of shaken them all, they've all kind of gone their own direction. I like seeing that. So Jemma tests out Fitz's virtual reality lab, which is based on Radcliffe's framework, which I didn't know, but Radcliffe actually is a main character this season, which I like seeing. But Coulson and Mack arrive at the lab, and they congratulate Jemma on her promotion to the new director's inner circle, and Fitz provides Mack with an exploding pen and Coulson with a new hand, which, again, it's hilarious to see that Coulson just keeps getting new hands. I mean, it seems like he'll never be able to run out of hands, but they all remark on how paranoid the new director really is, how everything seems to be classified these days, and how they all barely see each other anymore. It seems like this is a director that doesn't really want the whole team to be together. He, very much like Coulson, you know, very unlike Coulson, doesn't seem to want to get in on the action. Seems like he wants them to do the work. He seems like he wants them to do what they want to do, and it just doesn't seem like he very much, you know, knows what he's doing. It seems like this is a director that definitely is going to take some getting used to, and we don't get to meet the director in this episode, but I like the way that they set up this director, because we can just tell that he really is very inexperienced. He really does not know what he's doing yet. They definitely are not used to someone like this. They don't really get to see each other anymore. You know, Jemma and Fitz are involved with S.H.I.E.L.D, but they just aren't really working with Coulson and Mack. You know, they're all kind of on these separate missions, and they don't really know why it's like this. They don't want it to be all classified and everything, because that's not how it used to be for them. So I like the way that was done. I thought that was definitely interesting. So Daisy's doing some research. She's dressing in street clothes, leaves money behind for housekeeping, and gets into her van, and Ghost Rider interrogates one of the men from the truck. We don't really know what's going on there, but Coulson and Mack gather information on the crime, identifying the men involved as part of the Aryan Brotherhood. They touch down and then pick up Yo-Yo, which I guess is what we're calling her. I called her Elena last season, but I guess we're calling her Yo-Yo now, which she's not a main character. She was just a guest star in this episode, but it was cool to see her, just knowing that she's still around and knowing that we will get to see her this season. Mack then performs her checkup, and she's eager to hunt down Quake or work on whatever their mission is, because they don't really know what it is. Again, it's classified. They don't want it to be classified. They want to know what their mission actually is, because they don't really know. And I like, again, it's interesting, but Mack reminds her that the Sokovia Accords won't allow it, and she thinks it's ridiculous. You know, she's going on about how it's just the rules and it doesn't really matter and I don't really care what the rules say. She really wants things to go back to how they were, and I like seeing how the Sokovia Accords has really affected S.H.I.E.L.D. It just really shows how out with the old and in with the new we are. Like I said, Hydra's done. Hydra doesn't serve a purpose on the show anymore. What does serve a purpose are the Sokovia Accords and what the impact of that has done on S.H.I.E.L.D., which is something we didn't really get to see in Civil War. And as we know now, the Sokovia Accords have been implemented. Now S.H.I.E.L.D. no longer needs to operate in the shadows. But either way, it still seems like a very secretive type agenda, and they don't really know why it's so secret. So Coulson calls Mack away. Yo-Yo lets Mack know that he'd be interested in spending some more personal time together, which is interesting in seeing. I don't know if we had a Yo-Yo Mack type relationship thing before, but it seems like this season Mack actually might get a love interest, which I'm all for. If Yo-Yo and Mack become a couple, that would actually kind of interesting to see. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with that, and it definitely seems like Mack, they're trying to make him more of the funny guy because they don't have, They don't have Bobby and Lance anymore, so they're going to try to make him the funny guy. We'll have to see what happens with that, so that's definitely interesting. Fitz then arrives at Radcliffe's home to watch the soccer game, and here's the part where we really don't know what's going on, but I thought was very good setup. We just don't really know what's going on here. This naked woman appears in the living room, which it's played by Mallory Jansen. Very happy to see that she's still doing work, from Gallivant. Too bad that show got canceled, but I am happy to see that most of that cast is going on to do other things, because they're all really great. Mallory Jansen was great on that show, and she's already playing a very different character. She's playing this AI of sorts, and she begins malfunctioning while trying to introduce herself, and Radcliffe introduces her as AIDA, and she just she keeps saying hello, I'm glad to finally, but she's not finishing what she's supposed to say. So Radcliffe turns her off and explains that he built a body for his digital personal assistant, and Fitz reminds him of the stipulations of his pardon, which requires approval and oversight for experimentation, and we kind of get the sense that Jemma doesn't know about this and that he's keeping this from her, and Radcliffe explains that AIDA is more than a robot and could potentially pass as a human. So we don't really know what they're getting at there or why he exactly created AIDA, but I'm sure that's something we're going to find out a little bit later. Right now, though, we don't really know what this is all setting up. Either way, I'm intrigued because it's a robot and it's different than what we see on the show before. And I did like how a little bit later they talk about how it's not really like Ultron. But again, you get the sense that Fitz is not telling Jemma about this. They never have a conversation about it. It definitely seems like he's keeping things from her. And I think it's interesting to see where that's going to go. We don't really know if we can trust Radcliffe. Radcliffe has always kind of been like, I don't know. He's always seemed kind of sketchy to me, especially when we talk about that post-credit scene at the end of, Season 3, where we saw him in AIDA. We don't really know what AIDA is really being used for. I'm definitely interested in seeing why he really created her, because there's obviously a reason why, but for some reason he doesn't want to tell Fitz just yet. So Yo-Yo that meets Daisy on a bus fills her in on Mack and Coulson's activities. Yo-Yo also passes her some S.H.I.E.L.D. issue pills for bone regeneration, and Daisy tells Yo-Yo about the serial killers that she's trailing, and again, I like that she's doing this on her own. I think it's interesting to see the way that's going, and I like that Yo-Yo is catching up with her, because Yo-Yo, again, she doesn't want to follow the rules. She wants to do what is best for her, and I think it's interesting to see. So Jemma hands off some new hardware to May, and they both try to make sense of the new security protocol. Jemma asks about Quake, but May points out that she's better off asking the director, because again, they don't know. They don't know what's going on. The director doesn't want to tell them. The director's paranoid, and they really know nothing. So May knows as much as May knows as much as everyone else does. So Daisy then questions a graffiti artist who is creating an image of Ghost Rider on the wall, while Mack and Coulson investigate the truck the Aryan Brotherhood was trying to steal. They find bodies inside. Ghost Rider finishes off the Aryan Brotherhood member that he was interrogating, and Daisy tries to follow the Charger as a lead, and at headquarters, Jemma has discovered what May did with Mack and Coulson, and May thinks that Jemma's too close to the director, that she should be closer, but that Jemma's already grown too close to him, and that the director's been trying to undermine and separate Coulson's team, and that's really what he's trying to do, that he clearly does not want their team to be together, and he only likes to select few of them, which is interesting to see. Again, we don't really know what's really going on with the director. We'll find out next week, because next week's episode is called Meet the New Director, but Jemma explains that she doesn't trust the new director either, but that she's trying to gain his favor and to gain the power to maintain some sort of control, because she's always been in control, and she wants to keep that control. She orders May to take a team to retrieve Mack and Coulson from the field, because again, she wants them to meet up and everything. So Mack and Coulson investigate a company called Cosmogenic that had ties to the bodies in the truck, and we don't really know what's going on with them, but I thought that was interesting to see. So, meanwhile, Fitz and Radcliffe discuss the dangers AIDA poses, and Radcliffe insists that she's not AI like Ultron, so they don't have anything to worry about. She's not actually an AI. He explains that he doesn't want her to be a weapon, but he doesn't trust the new people in S.H.I.E.L.D. So he turns AIDA back on, she properly introduces herself, shakes Fitz's hands, and something is telling me that AIDA's not used for a good intent. She's basically being used for an evil intent. We don't really know what said evil intent is right now, but I really do not trust what Radcliffe wants to use AIDA for. Again, I don't really know what the reason is behind using AIDA and what he's really trying to accomplish by using her, but I really just don't trust what Radcliffe is doing. I mean, we've seen from the beginning that Radcliffe's not really the most trustworthy guy, and I really don't trust Radcliffe right now. I get that obviously what he's saying to Fitz, but I don't really know if that's why he's using AIDA. I feel like he has his own reasons for it, and he doesn't want to tell Fitz why. So AIDA explains that she was created to be a decoy target to save the lives of real agents, and Fitz agrees they can't tell Simmons because they can't tell Jemma because they don't know what the new director would do. Obviously, because Jemma's involved, and since Jemma is so heavily involved with the director, they don't want the director to know that AIDA's around. AIDA is supposed to help those fallen agents, which the director, again, doesn't seem to care much about. The director doesn't seem to care much about the lives of his agents. He seems to care more about his own safety, and it's interesting to see, again, where that's going to go. But I think it's interesting to see really where AIDA's headed, because again, I just feel like there's more going on there, but we'll have to see. So Mack and Coulson then stake out this warehouse where Korean Mafia are meeting with the men from Cosmogenic. The men in the truck peek at the cargo in the trunk, and they went berserk, and Ghost Rider suits up, but Daisy finds him. He introduced himself as Robbie Reyes, and I like that we're doing Robbie Reyes and, you know, not, you know, the character that Nicolas Cage played in Ghost Rider. I didn't see those movies, but I heard they really weren't too good. I like that we're not doing that. I like that we are doing Robbie Reyes, because, you know, it would, Johnny Blaze, that's the name. It would make sense to do Johnny Blaze, but Robbie Reyes, I think, is just better, because we haven't seen interpretation of that character on screen yet, so I think it's cool to see it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I have to say, Ghost Rider looked incredible. For TV, especially, the effects on Ghost Rider looks great. I love the way that he looked in this episode, and, she asks him about the charger, but Ghost Rider lies and says he doesn't know anything, and Quake then turns to leave, but Robbie offers to let her see the book of sales in the office trailer. The Koreans then open the box, and some kind of spectral energy pours out of it. They begin hearing the voices of what seems to be ghosts, and Quake realizes that Robbie is onto him, and they begin to fight. The Koreans begin turning onto each other. We don't really know what's going on, but again, clearly Robbie has a personal vendetta against these guys, and May and her team show up and infiltrate the building. They take the Koreans down. A ghost passes by behind May, and Quake accuses Ghost Rider of being a serial killer. And I like, again, that we really got behind his character here. They really developed this character in this really good way, and again, I thought that was very interesting the way they did that. Just in the first episode, we already know a lot about Ghost Rider, and I like seeing that. He says that he only kills the wicked and does it out of vengeance. She said he doesn't get to decide, but he says he's not the one who does deciding and transforms to his flaming skull form. So he really only kills the ones that are, you know, doing things for vengeance. The thing is, though, Daisy is in fact doing that. Daisy isn't killing anyone per se, but she is going after them for personal reasons, and he has Quake pinned down, could kill her. She asks for it, saying that she deserves it, but for some reason he decides to spare her. And I think it's because she hasn't killed anyone, or at least we get that impression that she hasn't really killed anyone, so maybe that's why, but you get the sense these two are going to team up, and I'm looking forward to seeing that because they're in very similar circumstances. I'm really looking forward to seeing what ends up happening between those two. I did like the scene where we can see that Daisy clearly is still grieving over Lincoln. We'll get into that, though, but the Korean gangster then taken to the Zay for one. Fitz and Jemma spend the night together. AIDA are hidden behind a bookshelf. Yo-Yo is then sent a picture of the graffiti image of Ghost Rider. Robbie helps his brother into a wheelchair, which his brother is actually played by the one that plays Chris on Fear the Walking Dead. You guys know I really am not a fan of that character, so I'm hoping that this actor makes me like that character more, or makes me like him as an actor more, because I think that actor could be really good if he plays a good character, so hopefully the character he plays in this show is not annoying, because I really am not a fan of Chris. I hope they kill him off in the next episode, because I'm not a fan of him. But, Quake then observes from her van, and again, we don't really know what role she's going to play into this, but we know, obviously, she's going to do something. So May and Coulson then play backgammon. She lets him know the director knows about his mission and will want to see him at headquarters. May then sees a vision of darkness taking over Coulson's face, and then the episode ends. There is no "we'll return" a moment. There is no post-credit scene, as I like to call it, but that's how the episode ends overall. Very interesting stuff. But let's get into this episode overall, my predictions for the season and next week as a whole. So really, what a way to start off. I thought this was a really great start to the season, but let's talk about the season as a whole, because there's a lot of stuff we're still very unsure with. First of all, the new director, played by Jason O'Mara, like I said, we're not going to meet him till next week's episode. Next week's episode is called Meet the New Boss, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he is, though, because it seems from this premiere that he doesn't seem to care much about the needs of the team. He cares a lot more about what he wants, and what he wants needs to get done in his own safety, and I'm really looking forward to exploring more about his character, because I think he's definitely operating a lot different than Coulson did, and it's clear that they are not enjoying the way that he's operating. It's definitely going to take some getting used to not seeing Coulson as the director. In fact, I'm pretty sure throughout the season I might call Coulson the director a couple times just because we're used to him being the director. And it's kind of cool to see him not being the director here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. AIDA, I like what they're doing with AIDA right now, but again, I feel like there's a different use for AIDA that Radcliffe does not want to tell Fitz about, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen there. Jemma's going to find out. I don't think Fitz is going to be able to keep this from her for that long. I feel like she's definitely going to find out, but we'll have to see what's going on with that. Daisy and Ghost Rider, I'm all for these two teaming up. I think, like I said, they are definitely very similar circumstances. You know, Daisy clearly is on a personal mission to get vengeance for Lincoln's death, and clearly because of Lincoln's death, she just doesn't feel like she belongs in S.H.I.E.L.D. anymore, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. And the ghost, by the way, is not referring to Ghost Rider. It's referring to Daisy, who really is kind of like a ghost to them. You know, they know she's out there, but she's not acknowledging them. She's kind of just gone on her own, and she doesn't seem to want anything to do with them. So she's very much like a ghost to me. Remember the relation that Daisy and Mack had? That's kind of gone right now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. But why did Robbie spare Daisy? That's something I'm definitely looking forward to, and I do like seeing Daisy as Quake. I think her powers in general are just really interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing the way that she is in the show, because it definitely seems like she's a bit of an anti-hero right now, and I'm all for that. I mean, we haven't really had Daisy as an anti-hero type character, but after the journey she went in Season 3 of S.H.I.E.L.D., it definitely makes sense why she is like that now. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. I think that definitely is going to be very interesting. As far as May, I like that May and Coulson are on very different sides right now. That Coulson isn't, that May is of higher ranking than Coulson. But what does that mean? That dark vision that May saw of Coulson, what is that really trying to show? Is it showing that Coulson's going to do something bad? I don't really know. That's something I'm definitely very unsure about. I don't really know where that's headed or where that's going. But again, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I'm perfectly fine with that uncertainty. I do feel we are going to see some flashbacks at some point, but we'll have to see really what's going to happen with that, because I don't really know. I hope we see more Yo-Yo. I like her character overall, and I don't know if her and Mack are going to start some sort of relationship, but they kind of implied that we might see more of that, so maybe we'll see more of that as the season goes on. Either way, guys, a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of really great setup, and I'm definitely for this premiere. Like I said, it definitely seems like a very different type of show, but I'm all for that. I think a revamped show is what they need, and there are a lot of things this premieres did right, such as trimming the cast. There's only 5 main characters now, and I believe there were like 10 main characters last year. And maybe they're going to get Bobby and Lance back at some point, because the fact, of course, as we know, Marvel's Most Wanted did not end up happening. I don't know if they're going to get them back, but we'll have to see. But especially, you know, now we don't have Lincoln anymore. We don't have a lot of the cast anymore. It's interesting to see the way the show is going to be with only like 5 main characters. But I think so far it's working out really well. I think it's exactly what the show needed to do. It's focused a lot more on, you know, Ghost Rider and what's going to happen with him. And I think Ghost Rider especially, I like the way we really did get into his backstory. And I can't wait to find out more about him. Either way, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this premiere. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Are you looking forward to season overall? Do you like the way they revamped the show? Do you like the darker tone? I think it just worked out for the better, honestly. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in my next one, which will be for the series premiere of This Is Us, which I know you guys are definitely looking forward to me talking about that. I know it's a major twist, and I definitely am going to talk about that, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.